Welcome back. Here at 742. Seattle's mayoral race is set for a rematch. Former Mayor Mike McGinn announcing that he will run against Mayor Ed Murray, who he lost to back in 2013.
The former mayor here live in studio chatting with Brandy Cruz this morning about his decision to run again. Brandy?
Yeah, Mr. McGinn, it's great to see you. I was telling you when you came in the studio and we greeted you this morning, it was like someone put me in a time machine back in time.
Yes.
It's interesting. Your announcement caught me off guard, and I was joking with a member of your staff that nothing happens in this city without someone knowing about it. And it was such a surprise. Can you just characterize why you made the decision? Because it's not an easy job. And I was thinking, are you sure you want to do it again?
No, and I had to have those conversations with my wife and family as well. You know, I was looking at what had been happening in the city around homelessness, in particular, housing costs, the way in which it's just harder for people to stay here and come here, you know, raise a family. And I think one of the other things that was really important to me was in the State of the City address by Ed Murray, his proposal was to, 2 new taxes. So now we're getting it from both sides. The costs are going up to live here, the housing costs, and then we're imposing taxes, regressive taxes, on the people that are least able to pay. And that got me seriously thinking about getting into the race.
We're going to get back to the tax issue, but I want to talk about Ed Murray. And I know you fielded questions on this yesterday. You weren't thrilled about it. But for people who don't know the background, you lost to Ed Murray in 2013 by just a few percentage points. I think it was 52% to 47%. So here on April 6th, you have very serious allegations levied against Ed Murray, accusations he paid a teenage boy for sex in the 1980s. And then here you come out of nowhere. And if I'm watching that, I'm thinking, well, clearly that was what prompted his decision to run. How much did that play into it for people who don't know?
Well, as I mentioned to you, it was that State of the City address that really got me going, because I could see the way the public was reacting to that. But ultimately, every 4 years we have a race about the future of the city. And those were the topics I wanted to talk about, and that's what I wanted to address in getting into the race, and what I hope we can address moving forward.
Yeah, and so you told me yesterday you're not going to make the accusations against him part of the race.
I have a choice. I can talk about Ed's problems, or I can talk about the city's problems. And I think the people of the city want to talk about the city's problems.
So I want to ask you, too, we were just talking about the election before we get to some of those issues. And the reality is you lost.
Yeah.
Don't you think, and now you're running against the same person, that the people of Seattle have already made up their minds about which of you they prefer?
Well, it was a tight race, as you pointed out. It was just separated by, 4 percentage points. And, my first race was a tight race as well. So I expect this one, I imagine no matter who emerges from the primary, if I get to emerge, it'll be a tight race again. But again, this is an opportunity to talk about the future of the city. And the city has changed a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hope people, when they look back at my term, can focus on how I worked really hard to grow and to mature into the job. And I've had a few years to reflect on it and how I could do better the next time. And I've just been really, really gratified by the outpouring of support I've received since getting in. That's one of the things you worry about when you get into a race. Will your base be there for you? And I'm really, really heartened by yesterday's response from volunteers and folks who want to help.
Yeah, and I want to, you said you've grown and matured, and I knew you back in the day, I covered you as mayor. I want to read you, it was a pretty harsh statement from the Ed Murray campaign. I just want to read you a part of it. It says, Mike McGinn's divisive and confrontational style led to years of paralysis, dysfunction, and infighting at City Hall. As mayor, Mike McGinn picked fights with everyone under the sun. He attacked our Democratic governor, calling her a liar. He fought the Obama Department of Justice on police reform. He fought with our U.S. attorney. He fought with our city attorney. He fought with the city council. Did you fight with everyone? I will say I can vouch for a couple of these things, that you did fight with a couple of these people. What do you think that says about you, and is that true? Do you think that's an accurate characterization?
Well, Ed's working to hang on to his job, and what we've seen is this is how Ed responds to criticism. He really goes on the attack immediately. And I think what the phrase for some of those would be called stretchers, or beyond. So obviously we got a lot done in my 4 years. We got paid sick leave, we made $60 million in cuts during a really tough recession. And that's the type of budget outlook I want to take moving forward as well. So there's a whole list of things we accomplished. Clearly I was new to office, and I had to learn, how that system worked. But just like there were people who who disagreed with me on issues, and we did disagree on issues, there were a lot of people who supported me as well. There were a lot of people who felt like they'd never had more of a voice in City Hall than before. And those are the people who are coming out to support me right now.
And we're going to get to some of these issues in detail, because we're going to ask you to stick around after the commercial break. I hope you'll stay. One of the questions I asked you yesterday is, look, a lot of the problems that the city has, growth, livability, affordability, homelessness, these existed when you were mayor, yet we haven't been able to deal with them in a meaningful way. So how do you make that pitch to voters that you're going to be able to solve problems that were problems when you were elected back in 2009?
Well, I think what we've seen is they've gotten so much worse. And again, it was also a very different time. When I was in office, we were trying to figure out how to deal with very steep unemployment, a really dramatic drop in tax revenues that meant we had to figure out how to maintain services while cutting the budget, and how do we spur some economic activity to make the city work again. That succeeded. Now we're facing a much more serious problem, which is that economic growth has exploded, but we're not asking the big companies that are benefiting from that growth, that are benefiting from this beautiful city, to pay enough to help. And, you know, we've had an explosive growth in city revenues, $250 million over the last 3 years, 25% increase in the general fund. Yet our elected leaders keep telling us we don't have enough money to pay for things and we need to tax you know, lower and middle income workers to pay for it. And I want to bring that type of budget discipline I had and that focus on, you know, middle class and lower income workers that I brought in my first race to deal with this exploding problem over the last few years.
All right, we want to talk more about that, taxes. I also want to talk to you about the Sonics, so if you'll stick around for the commercial break, that'd be great. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. We're joined by former Seattle Mayor Mike McGinn, once again throwing your hat in the race, running for mayor against Ed Murray and whoever else joins between now and May 19th. I want to talk to you about some issues that you had brought up during your official announcement yesterday, one of them being taxes. In one breath, you were criticizing city government for taxing the people of Seattle too much, but then you also said that you would support a city income tax. Why is that okay, but the other ones aren't?
Well, let's put it in context. My starting point is going to be to look at that explosion in revenues that we've had and growth in government spending. I mean, the mayor's office budget has gone up 80% in 3 years. You know, the whole city budget has gone up 25% in 3 years. So my starting point is going to be to look at the budget, find savings, put it towards priorities. But if there are priorities that require new taxes, I would like to ask those most able to pay, to pay first, not those least able to pay. We have one of the most regressive local tax systems in the nation. Now, I have proposed that one of the things I would like to look at is an income tax. We know that it will be challenged legally. There's an open question as to whether it's permitted under the laws of the state of Washington.
Right, because the state law says we can't have a state income tax.
Well, there's both state law and the Constitution. There's a lot of arguments over what that law really says. So I'm urging the city council to just pass something. Doesn't have to be a big tax, just something, you know, the most defensible legal case they can, and let's test it. And if the courts say yes, then we can examine if we need that for our purposes. If the courts say no, then we can stop having a debate about something that we can't have. So that's my position on the income tax.
So I want to move on to a much different issue, the Sonics. Before you left, I remember this picture of you cheersing with Chris Hansen, who's trying to bring the Sonics back, and certainly you were well liked among the fan base. You are in support, or were in support, of the Soto Arena option. You want City Council to vacate Occidental to make that possible. And I think people sit in three camps. Either they want the Key Arena option, the Soto Arena option, or they just don't care and they just want the Sonics back however we could get them back. Where do you sit on that issue right now?
Probably more in the third camp. So in that regard, I do support the street vacation, and I would like to see, you know, that opportunity for the Soto Arena, you know, group to go to the NBA and see if they can get a team. Because we're not going to build that arena unless they get a team. But let's give them a shot to try, and there's no public money in it at all. I do see in the Key Arena, I think these are, we've seen two very serious proposals come forth. And right now they're starting to really look under the hood of those proposals.
Right.
What type of public money are in them? What does it mean for traffic in the area? And I think we should push forward with those two and look at those and see how good those are.
Do you expect that the Sonics fan base, that you'll get those votes as opposed to Ed Murray?
Well, you know, of course, I'm looking to get votes across the city, but I've been a supporter of bringing the Sonics back to Seattle, and I put a lot of effort into that when I was mayor.
So my big question for you, I think for people watching, and when I heard your announcement yesterday, we've had you once. You know, you've been our mayor one time. So for people who are thinking, you know, I just want something new. I just want something new. I don't like the direction the city is going. How do you make that plug to them to say, you know what, I can do things this time that perhaps we couldn't get done as a city last time, or you know, that things will be better this time? Because you did lose, and maybe for a reason, but what is your pitch to voters?
Well, you know, races are ultimately about the issues that matter to voters. And so I put forward a platform. We've talked about what I care about. How do we prevent this city becoming from like San Francisco, which is just turning into an enclave for the wealthy? And what I'd say to the voters is, I had a lot of time in office. I learned a lot in that time, and I'd ask people to take an honest look at that term, not just the accusations of a challenger. But I've also had a few years to reflect on that and what it meant to be in office for the first time, to be in that setting. And I've mellowed about how to approach issues, but I'm still really passionate about this city. I want my kids to be able to live here, and I want us to be an opening and welcoming and inclusive city for immigrants and refugees. And these are the things I've cared about, and I still care about them. So I guess my pitch is take a fresh look, take a look at the ideas, and those that were with me, I hope will come with me, and people that weren't, maybe we'll see that I was a pretty good option then and maybe a better option now.
All right, former Mayor Mike McGinn running once again. We look forward to hearing from you much more, and also hearing from Ed Murray and whoever else might throw their hat in the race between now and the deadline. So thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Appreciate it, Brandy.
Casey, Liz, back to you.